Welcome to this week's edition of Dolfan Radio. And now, here's your hosts, Brad Michaels and John Bock. All right, everyone, welcome back. Special edition now of Dolfan Radio. I hate to say it again, but the shot heard around the National Football League yesterday. Former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores has not only named the Dolphins, but also the NFL and two of its other teams in a lawsuit filed, a class action complaint filed in the United States District Court, the Southern District of New York. Joining me on the phone, my co-host, John Bock, live from South Florida. John, well, good to see you. Good to talk to you again, but I wish it was under different circumstances.
Oh, yeah, the Miami Dolphins are going through Armageddon right now.
It's interesting to note. What is your the lawsuit itself bad enough in the claims of violations of the Rooney Rule? The Rooney Rule is a joke, basically, because we all know that. It was a surprise. I think Brian Flores has probably coached his last game ever in the National Football League, depending on how this case goes. The biggest bombshell, I think, of all was the accusations aimed at the owner of the Miami Dolphins, Stephen Ross.
Well, this is a complex and deep story, and it's going to take a lot of sorting out. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And when you're looking at all the different situations that are going on right now, one, we understood how Flores was fired, where Ross basically told him to pack his crap and get the hell out. Then we go down to then he goes in for his interviews. It's a BS interview because they are going to hire Brian Dabble out of the Buffalo Bills to the New York Giants. It's already done.
Right.
But you throw in the Tom Brady on the yacht with Ross, and Flores was supposed to be at that meeting, which would have been NFL tampering at the time. You add in Ross's $100,000 loss bonus per loss bonus to Brian Flores. This is not looking good for anybody. This is NFL tampering. You're fixing games, essentially. The NFL is a $10 billion business.
Sure.
You add in gambling, it's $160 billion. So a lot of people who have money on games and do all this, those are your fan base. That's everything else. I don't see Stephen Ross surviving this here in Miami. And I certainly don't see Brian Flores getting another opportunity in the National Football League as a head coach. I think he understands. He believes he's going to do good for the Rooney Rule and move on to college. So this is like the Black Sox right now.
I was just going to say, I mentioned this yesterday when I was talking to a friend of mine, and I told him, I said, this has, this is tampering. This is, well, not tampering. This is fixing games. And I said,
well, there was another story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's another story that came out. Hugh Jackson,
yes.
When he says with the Browns, he's saying he was paid to fix games.
I saw that this morning.
This could be a class action lawsuit for conspiracy with the NFL owners. This story is not going away. No. It's going to be here for 6 months. It's going to cost us hiring the head coach that Ross wanted, which would have been Jim Harbaugh. That would look like everything played out. He wasn't going to steal Harbaugh from Michigan, but Harbaugh removed himself from Michigan when he took the Zoom interview with the Minnesota Vikings. So Ross was tampering with Harbaugh, could be proved. It's the Ross Law School at the University of Michigan. This is corrupt up and down the scale. It is corrupt. And the NFL is going to have to answer a lot of questions about their practices.
Well, it shows us right there the depths. I always thought that Stephen Ross was just flat out just a horrible owner and just didn't understand how to run a football team. And I want to bring everybody up to date. I have the full report. All right, I printed it out, and this is scathing. Now, granted, a lot of it goes to the Rooney Rule. It goes to racial discrimination against black coaches, players, general managers, the fact that there's not a single black owner in the National Football League. But it says here in page 5, section 14, it talks about Ross's relationship with Flores and what Flores says happened starting as far back as 2019 when he was approached by Mr. Ross in his first season, and he was told it was a directive from the owner to tank for the first pick. And he was offered $100,000 for every loss. And then as the team started to win, when they ended up finishing the season 5-11, the team's general manager, Chris Greer, by the way, is a black man, told Mr. Flores that Steve was mad that Mr. Flores' success in winning games that year was compromising the team's draft position.
Well, you better be able to prove it. So, but and that because he said directive from the owner. That's hearsay.
Right.
So that's the one thing that if Flores brought this case and he doesn't have evidence, he's just put a black eye on everybody but more himself. That will damage his entire coaching career.
Right.
If he's not completely forthright in that thing that he has evidence of that being said.
Well, and I can't imagine that the law firms that got involved in filing this lawsuit wouldn't have made that very, very clear to Mr. Flores. Hey, look, you need to show us evidence. You need to show us proof. You know, what do you have? Do you have this directive in writing from Mr. Ross, which I'm sure that's not the case. So where are the recordings? Where are the eyewitnesses who can corroborate your story?
That's not true. Because any lawyer who took that case knew the NFL was going to settle it out of court, and the publicity is bad enough, and it's believable. It is completely believable. And now there's a second story out there with Hugh Jackson and the Cleveland Browns. It's completely believable. So this is a play to bring attention to it, which I think Flores will do. I don't believe there's evidence, text messages, but there has to be something outside the contract if he was actually paid per loss. So you'd see it, you know what his contract is. If there's a mysterious bonus there too, as well, isn't that a violation in the NFL?
Well, that's absolutely a violation, and it would prove.
This isn't DeBarto in San Francisco where guys were getting bags of cash. That was a real thing. Yeah,
and it's not Bountygate in New Orleans where they were getting cash for hurting opposing players.
Well, if Flores was getting cash, and it's like taking the bribe.
Yeah, which isn't good for him, especially considering that in the lawsuit he talks about his integrity.
Well, his integrity, if he took a penny of it, then he's culpable, in my opinion.
Absolutely. He's absolutely culpable if he took any money. Now, if he didn't take the money and it was somehow still offered to him, you know, supposedly, let's say it was wired into his bank and he wired it right back and refused it. But, you know, the lawsuit itself, that's just the tipping stone there. I'm not sure if, I know the NFL may reach out and try to settle this. I know that that's probably what they want to try to do. I'm not quite sure that I'm convinced that they will settle this one. They seem to have their backup, and they seem like they're ready to come out and fight.
Well, Goodell's a mastermind, former FBI guy. He's very competent. And they have their media team and everything else working on this. So the NFL is going to they're going to get great advice on how to handle this. To me, I don't squash it either. Same time, I defend it to a point and I let it go.
Well, you have to, and like you said, Goodell's a smart guy. The NFL's got a lot of lawyers, the teams, obviously, the owners, they all have a lot of attorneys. So you have very, very good attorneys on both sides. I'm not sure Flores lets this go. I don't think the NFL lets this go. And I'm not sure because they're ramping everything up. And my advice to Brian Flores, I hope you're ready because they're going to come and hit you with everything they've got. They're going to dig up if you swallowed a piece of Hubba Bubba back in 5th grade, they're going to find out and they're going to ask you why.
It's big tobacco with the former cancer suits.
Yeah.
It's big tobacco when you fight the NFL. Don't think you're fighting U.S. Steel if you're fighting them. But at the same time, they are savvy and they are media savvy beyond your wildest dreams. But if Flores doesn't have direct evidence, not a directive from the
has to have direct evidence
from the president of the team, the owner of the team, but it has to come from Ross, and there has to be a money exchange to prove this. Now, he does have a case on the Rooney Rule. Right. I don't really care about the Rooney Rule. It has good intentions, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Sure.
I'm not concerned that there's not a black owner, just because no one's ever tried to buy that team that's African American. I've never seen an African American person try to buy a team. The Dolphins are for sale. We have a big following down here with a lot of people with money. Maybe when Ross has to sell, maybe he sells to an African American, and the price is reduced. Because right now it's going to be about $4 billion to buy the Miami Dolphins. That means you would need 400 millionaires.
Yes.
More than that. I mean, God, what is it? The $4 billion, you need 4 billionaires to buy it.
Right. You'd need 4 billionaires to buy it, or at least 1 billionaire that has 50 billion, or something in that ballpark.
Okay, 40 guys with 100 million.
Yeah.
There's only so many people that can buy these franchises. And we even have a Muslim in Jacksonville here. So the NFL doesn't discriminate on that.
No.
So I wish that was left out of it. And then, the league's 70% black, but most players don't go into coaching. The guys that don't make much money go into coaching, which are usually the lesser guys on your roster. Mm-hmm. It's rare. Deion Sanders never did it the right way. He didn't become a GA and then, be a gopher for a couple of years and then become a wide receiver coach and then become a coordinator and then become a head coach. So that all takes time. But the fact that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are in the middle of all this, you couldn't make that up in a soap opera and people believe you.
Well, I don't think Tom Brady is completely in this. His name has been dropped, obviously, as the quarterback in question.
Dropped on a yacht, and Flores and Ross were supposed to be there. That allegation has to be proven, of course.
True.
But don't tell me Bill Belichick did this by accident.
I don't think he did this by accident either, which begs the question, because Belichick, it's right here. There's the text message from Bill Belichick to Brian Flores. And at the end of it, it's like, he's like, oops, I effed up. I double checked and I misread the text. I think they're naming Dable. I'm sorry about that, BB, Bill Belichick. So,
oh yeah, Bill just happened to make that strategic error where he doesn't know how to send a text now.
Exactly.
That is not happening, and now that messes with the Buffalo Bills, the New York Giants, and the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
So he just sabotaged his potential competition because the Jets aren't going anywhere.
No.
For the next 3 years. You have to realize the turmoil that's going to be involved, because if any of these allegations are approved, the NFL is going to make the Miami Dolphins for sale. We're not getting a head coach.
No.
So we're going to have to hire some.
I don't even know if McDaniel's going to want to show up. I was going to ask you that. Do you even think we lost Harbaugh for sure? Do you even think, if you're Mike McDaniel, do you want to come and deal with this circus show in Miami?
It's hard enough to deal with a new GM. Could you imagine dealing with a new owner? Where if you're not his guy, you're gone, and then you just gave up a good job, and you're going to be in discussion for a head coaching job in all the next years. You take the Dolphins job, you get fired in a year because the team sells. And
you're toast.
The new owner wants to go a different direction. He wants a new GM, which the fan base is calling for. Yeah. The Sean Watson and the Tua thing's going to continue in the offseason. You're going to have coaches jumping ship because this week is the Senior Bowl. If you want a coaching job, you find it at the Senior Bowl. I guarantee you, if you check everybody's accounts, every Dolphins coach is at the Senior Bowl this week trying to get another job.
Can you blame them? I want to come full circle. We talked about this right before the show, before we got on air. You and I both are of the belief that Stephen Ross first of all, he should sell the team. He needs to sell the team, but he's probably, you and I both think, is going to be forced to sell the team. How fast do you think that is going to be a directive from the league?
Well, like now what you're saying is they're going to fight him. And what I'm saying is the NFL is not going to fight this. They're going to put up a good media front. They're going to put up a strong case against it, and they're going to settle. And then they can take action against Ross after they settle. They will not take action against the Miami Dolphins till this lawsuit's settled. That puts it 2 years out. They could expedite it if they settle and then make this thing happen in 6 months. But how many people got $4 billion in, how many banks would, actually finance them for this endeavor?
Well, how many banks, bring that back to the banks, how many banks would want to finance this endeavor with the Dolphins being caught up in all this turmoil? Because you have no idea what you've done to alienate your fan base. You're not going to be able to get players.
It's still about the NFL.
True.
And the NFL is a monster. They said we're a $160 billion industry, but our franchises are, we generate $10 billion a year. So, there's not that much spread there when you're paying $4 billion. When you were Mr. Huizenga and you bought the Dolphins for $135 million, and then the CBA takes thing and everything skyrockets with the new contracts. We're not getting more money. We're fighting harder for market share.
Yeah.
So the teams are pretty much capped out now. So there's not a lot of revenue return in owning a team. It's always been in the appreciation of the team.
Which at this point with Miami, again, how much appreciation who are you going to find, first of all, that can afford it? Number two, that wants to risk that much money. The bank's going to risk putting up the money to help finance the company or to help finance the team. And the fan base, we don't know how alienated the fan base is. We just talked about you can't attract a decent head coach down there now. Let's talk about players. The Dolphins have the most cap space of any team in the National Football League at close to $74 million, I believe it is. Who's going to want to come down there and play? Despite the fact that you got South Beach, you got all the other beaches, the beautiful weather, and no state income taxes. But who is going to want to play in this atmosphere?
Guys who want money.
That's going to be it.
I mean, everybody wants that second contract, and they'll go wherever for it. And then if you're lucky enough to get a third contract, then you're looking to win a Super Bowl. No one cares about winning a Super Bowl when they're that young. It's about feeding their families and setting themselves up for life. Winning that's why free agency has been good. What did Lee Steinberg say? Free agency allows B plus players to get A money.
Yeah. Well, it's sad. The biggest thing is, and I understand football's a tough game. Flores even alluded to that in the lawsuit, that these guys, they go out there and they put their bodies and their brains on the line every week, getting just, debilitating hits, debilitating injuries. I just remember, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it wasn't this case, maybe it wasn't this way, but I do remember the days of Jim Kick and Larry Zonka, and I hate to bring those guys back as a Dolphin fan, but that's all we've got. But, those guys played for love of the game. Granted, when they got the money thrown at them from the World Football League, it's like Larry Zonka told me, he said, Brad, it was life-changing money. I had to, for my family, I had to take that. Because at that time, Joe Robbie, the National Football League, none of the owners in the National Football League back in 74, 75 were throwing the kind of money at these players that the World Football League threw at them.
Oh no, it was the difference. They tried to jump in and dominate them, and they all ran out of money.
Right.
I heard a famous story about Orlando's team, where the coach I think they won the championship that year. Or you're not talking about the no.
I'm not talking about the USFL. I'm talking about the World Football League in '75. That's what I'm talking
about. The World League.
Okay.
So they ran out of money, and Orlando had the coaches open up their houses. Nobody was getting paid, and they won the championship anyways because they ran out of money. And the players all held together and won that championship for Orlando, I believe it was, in '75.
Yeah.
75,
and didn't they folded to 10 to what, 76?
Yeah, that's because they ran out of money in 75. And they couldn't pay the players during the year. And I went through that with the FSFL where there was a glitch with the kid's last paycheck. And the people are yelling at me. I'm like, look, I'm like you guys. I'm not getting paid either. We got one game left. Let's go win a championship. And we won the championship, but we had a couple players sick because they didn't get paid. I'm like, for that $1,200, kid, you should pay it just for the film. Yeah. I go, I know you're not getting paid, but it's another opportunity to be seen.
Absolutely. I would have played, and I would have played because I love the game, and that's the difference. I mean, you see that. This is what guys do, and I get it. It's all about the money, and like you said, it's all about, hey, I grew up poor. Didn't have, we lived in a shack. We had, a falling apart car in the front yard and the driveway, maybe a car up on block. Who knows? As you had said it.
My best running back was a kid named Mario Fanning. I forget where he played, in North Carolina or Clemson or somewhere. And, he held out. I'm like, are you fool? You were a second round pick. You got cut last year. Now you're going to sit out over, $1,200 after taxes. Like, that's dumb. Yeah. It's our last game of the year. They're folding the season. They can't pay. I'd be lucky if you guys all get on a plane tomorrow and go home. But we're getting off topic here.
Yep.
But the real problem right now is there's the usual suspects are all lined up right now in this catastrophe that we're going through. And it goes back, it always goes back to the owner. You're the owner. But now the NFL's involved. You have other teams involved. Somehow Belichick's involved. Somehow Tom Brady's involved. And Brian Flores may have exposed it. But, that is... I don't like him doing it over the Rooney Rule. Because everybody knew who was getting hired first. He was a fired head coach. He was a qualified head coach, so they gave him the interview. I think you complained the guys were late in Denver, but Denver has everything on paper saying that they weren't late. So there's a lot to this, but I don't agree with Flores, but he is sacrificing his reputation to shed light on something he feels about and has exposed a lot of devious behavior.
Well, and I think he's exposed a lot of behavior that, as you said, we all know it goes on. We all know that the Rooney Rule, it was written as it was written. It was written, I believe, in good intentions, but then the teams figured out, as they always do, they figured out a way around it. You figure this out with your attorneys. Hey, we really want to get Dable in here, but we got to go ahead and interview these two guys. So,
Greer just got fired for being incorrigible, according to Greer.
You mean, yeah,
so why
Flores
would the Giants hire him?
Exactly.
His name was slandered when he left the Miami Dolphins, and I don't think that was fair.
No, it wasn't, and he alludes to that in the lawsuit.
If that's how he feels to get back, all right,
Yeah.
You've been scorned.
Because...
But again, if he's trying to really shed light on it, I get it. He's hanging himself on a cross right now because nothing good other than money can come out of this. And then, well, maybe some good. Maybe the NFL will look at some rule changes. Maybe they'll look at ownership. Maybe they'll look at integrity issues among owners. Because how's DeBardo still involved? He was paying guys in cash in 85, 86, 87.
Sure. This is going to lead to some problems. Like I said, I think the NFL is going to fight this. If they do settle it, like you said, I don't think they're going to settle it in the next 6 months. I don't think they're going to settle it for at least 2 years down the road, unless they want to get this over with before the next season starts, so that this isn't a black cloud hanging over the league during a season. But to your point and what we were talking about, in addition to tanking the 2019 season and then Brady's name not being mentioned in the lawsuit, but according to Joe Shad at the Palm Beach Post, that quarterback in question showing up at the marina that day, Flores leaves the yacht, would not have lunch because he didn't want to deal with that, and tampering was, in fact, Tom Brady. But Flores says in the lawsuit, this is on page 6, section 16, and then goes on through, it says, from that point forward, Mr. Flores was ostracized and ultimately he was fired. So he was subsequently defamed throughout the media and the league as he was labeled by the Dolphins brass as someone who was difficult to work with. This is reflective of an all too familiar angry black man stigma that is often cast upon black men who were strong in their morals and convictions, while white men are coined as passionate for the very same attributes. That's in the lawsuit. But I want to bring back, I held up the paper, showed you Bill Belichick's text messages to Brian Flores. Those are actual images. So there's some evidence, if we can corroborate that actually Bill Belichick's phone or his number.
Oh, what a nightmare.
It is.
I mean, I don't know what to say more, Brad. It's a damn nightmare.
It is.
Because here, okay, so if Brady's at the yacht club in Palm Beach, how do you get there?
Exactly.
Because you can show there's a flight log and a flight plan. If Ross flew Brady here from Tampa, that is NFL tampering right there. Ross, the NFL cannot defend Ross at that point because it becomes an owner's issue.
Well, he wouldn't have been able to fly him in from Tampa. That was at the end of 2019 as he was. His contract was up in New England.
Oh, you think Mr. Kraft flew him down here to Fort Lauderdale?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So either he had to fly down here commercial or he jumped on somebody's jet. I want to know what jet Tom Brady took to get here to West Palm Beach.
Yep. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Yeah.
You depose him. That's an easy question. How did you get to Palm Beach? From New England or wherever you were? He's got to answer that question if he gets deposed.
Well, and he better answer it truthfully because, as you said, there's flight logs. There's a paper trail of tickets.
Oh, Brady isn't going down for this.
No.
And now he's retired. Brady hates the league. I don't think Tom Brady likes the league. I mean, he had to play that cat in New England, but he got a lot looser when he went down to Tampa. I mean, being on the boat drunk, throwing the trophy, he let loose a little bit. I don't think Brady's a league guy. Peyton Manning's a league guy. I don't see Brady being a league guy necessarily. I think we've seen Tom Brady come out of the shell a little bit here in the last couple of years and really show you what kind of person he is. Because I can tell you, everybody that I know that's played with Tom Brady, they love him.
Yeah. Well,
and I've been around 23 Hall of Famers. You don't love all those guys. No. I mean, but he's just that cool. And, I'm a big fan of him. I mean, how do you hate Tom Brady? The guy's only been one of the best. He's the best ever. I'm considering him that now. I'll put him ahead of Marino and Jim Kelly and Bernie Kosar. Who I played with those guys. And I still think Tom Brady's better. But Tom Brady he's not afraid of the NFL anymore. And his testimony is going to be big on this. We'll see if he keeps quiet. Because if it's not true, he'll make a Twitter post in 24 hours.
Absolutely.
If it is true, you won't hear from him.
No, he'll lay low and he'll wait. He'll wait to see what happens. Hey, John, I know that you've got a big day coming up. Your son's National Signing Day, so that's a big event for you. I want video.
Yeah, it's big all over South Florida. I was just looking at Pat Surtain's school, whose son plays for the Broncos, and they had like 11 kids going to like Alabama and Georgia and Clemson. So I think we're gonna have about 11 today. My son and a kid named Trey Brown already signed at Christmas. We signed the early signing day.
Right.
We didn't want to play this transfer portal mess. We found schools that, John found a school that he really liked. McIntyre is a head coach. Is the head coach, but he's been an NFL guy, and even everything. 90% of what I taught my son is from Bill Callahan, and then the offensive line coach they hired is a Bill Callahan disciple. He coached him at Nebraska, and he took him to Philadelphia Eagles with him. So he's another pro guy. So we're really happy where we're at, but everybody else waited. So I think we have one kid going to Oklahoma, one going to Iowa State, another one going to Miami. Then we got some smart kids too going to like Cornell. Another lineman's going to Florida, and then so it should be a great class for Cardinal Gibbons, and those kids deserve it. They won 3 state championships in 4 years, and they're reaping the awards today. So it's going to be an exciting day to find out where all these kids go.
Well, that's definitely exciting. Congratulations to your son, John, and I'm not going to hold Jeff any longer. I just felt that as Dolfan Radio, I felt that we needed to come out here and get a little bit of a lead on this story and at least put our take out there. We'll keep an eye on this. We'll monitor the story as it develops. Anything that we feel needs to be reported or commented on, we will be back on air again. John, thanks for joining me with quick notice, and have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk with you soon.
All right, you guys stay good and go Dolphins.
All right, go Dolphins.
We don't know where we're going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. All right, well, this is Dolfan Radio. I'm Brad Michaels along with John Bock. We'll be back soon with another edition of Dolfan Radio. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching or listening. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. And for more great content, check us out on the web at www.dolfanradio.com.